So my dad and stepmom decided my stepbrother, 17 years old, and I, 15 years old, female, need therapy. They got married 6 years ago and were not the close family they thought they were making at the time. The two children they have together did not bring us all closer together. My stepbrother and I don't call them our parents. I call dad my dad and he's my parent. Stepmom is my stepbrother's mom and his only parent. My mom died and his dad walked out on him 10 years ago. So we didn't go through the same stuff or anything. Anyway, when we started therapy, we were all asked why we were there. My dad said he did not feel like my stepbrother, or I had really let the family change in our hearts. Stepmom said she felt as though we had no real connection to each other, and they needed to try and change that before it was too late. My stepbrother said we were there because his mom wanted to force a new dad on him. I said we were there because they didn't get the image they had of the new family we'd be when they got married, and that I think deep down they realized the fact that neither of us was excited or totally on board with all becoming a stepfamily has played out exactly as it was always going to, and they want to see if they can mold us into their vision more. Last week we had a session and we had to do this weird questionnaire. The counselor said she wanted to see how well we all knew each other. So the question was, what is their favorite food, favorite color, and favorite thing to do? On my list, she included my mom and my little brother who died at the same time as our mom. This was on top of each other and the step-family members, including my half-siblings. When we handed them back, she asked my dad about my mom and brother's favorite things and confirmed my answers were right. Both he and stepmom asked why they had been listed on them. The counselor pointed out that I knew theirs really well, and I knew dad's old favorites, not current ones, but nobody else's. My stepbrother didn't know anyone's. Stepmom didn't know mine or most of her sons, and dad knew most of mine but not everything. After we left the session with instructions to reflect but not fight about what we discovered that day, my dad and stepmom were pretty damn pissed, and she was hurt that I knew what my brother had liked before he died, and he was only 4, but not any of my new living family members. My stepmom said I could remember my mom and brother so well and knew dad before so well that it shows I didn't even try to get to know the rest of them as well. I said I thought that would be pretty obvious. They said I need to start working harder in therapy because they're paying to fix things. I told them it's a waste of time then, and I'm done because clearly we're going for one purpose and we don't all share the same objective for it. They got super mad at me and later got super mad at my stepbrother as well. They wanted me to swear I will change my mind or else I'll be difficult for no real reason. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, but you have a great therapist, really. He completely nailed it with his question. It's not just you that didn't blend into that family. It's all of you, dad and stepmom included. She knows nothing about you, but is trying to make it your fault. Your stepbrother knows nothing about anybody. In fact, he has already checked out of the family, even his mother. Your dad seems to have stopped making effort at some point since he did know about you before, but still knows nothing of his stepson. It's not a you problem. It's that they never acted in a way that could help blend the family, basically learning to know the others. Making new babies has never been a way to do so. It just creates a genetic link that's not enough to call it family. Edit, thanks for the award. Comment 2, your parent and step-parent aren't going to get the family they want or envision or whatever. You and your stepbrother are not made of clay. You can't be molded into shape. Everybody in this situation has experienced terrible losses, and I expect you are all suffering. In the opinion of this random internet person, your respective parents should, or could, focus on loving and accepting the family they have rather than trying to force a vision on living, breathing people who have their own feelings, lives, and autonomy. Not the idiot now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for your comments on my last post. I really appreciate your insights and support. It's been a wild few days since my last update. After the therapy session where the counselor pointed out how little we all knew about each other, things got pretty tense at home. My dad and stepmom were fuming, especially about the fact that I remembered my mom and brother's favorite things so well, but couldn't recall much about my new family members. The next day, my stepmom sat me down for a heart-to-heart. She told me how hurt she was that I hadn't made more of an effort to get to know her and my half-siblings. She said she understood that I had been through a lot, but that it was time for me to start moving forward and embracing our new family dynamic. I tried to explain that it wasn't that simple, that I couldn't just flip a switch and forget about my mom and brother, but she just didn't seem to get it. Later that evening, I overheard my dad and stepmom arguing in their bedroom. My stepmom was crying, saying that she felt like a failure as a mother and a wife. My dad was trying to console her, but I could tell he was frustrated too. He said something about how he thought things would be different by now, that we would all be one big happy family. It made me realize just how much pressure they had put on this whole blended family thing, and how unrealistic their expectations had been from the start. The following day, my stepbrother and I were left alone while our parents took our half-siblings to the park. We ended up having a really honest conversation about everything that had been going on. He admitted that he resented my dad for trying to be a father figure to him, and that he missed his own dad terribly. I told him how much I missed my mom and brother, and how hard it was for me to let new people into my life after losing them. We both agreed that our parents had rushed into things without really considering how it would affect us. When my dad and stepmom got home, they could tell that something had shifted between my stepbrother and me. We were actually talking and laughing together, which was a rare sight. They seemed pleased, but also a little wary, like they weren't sure what to make of it. That night, I did a lot of thinking about my mom and brother. I remembered how my mom used to always say that life was too short to hold grudges, and that forgiveness was the key to happiness. I thought about how much she would have wanted me to be open to new people and experiences, even if it was scary. I realized that maybe I had been closing myself off as a way of protecting myself from getting hurt again, but that in doing so, I was also missing out on the possibility of new connections and love. The next morning, I surprised everyone by making breakfast for the whole family. It was nothing fancy, just some scrambled eggs and toast, but it was a gesture of goodwill. My stepmom seemed touched, and my dad gave me a big hug. I could tell that they were both relieved to see me making an effort. Later that day, we had another therapy session. This time, when the counselor asked us about our favorite things, I made a point of including some of my new family members' preferences. It wasn't much, but it was a start. My stepbrother did the same, and I could see the surprise and gratitude on our parents' faces. As we left the session, my dad pulled me aside and apologized for putting so much pressure on me to change. He said he realized that it wasn't fair to expect me to just forget about my mom and brother, and that he would try to be more understanding of my feelings. I appreciated his apology, but I also knew that it would take time for us to truly understand each other. In the end, I realized that while I may never have the same kind of bond with my stepfamily that I did with my mom and brother, that doesn't mean I can't form new connections with them. It's a process, and it won't happen overnight, but I'm willing to give it a shot. After all, life is too short to hold on to the past forever. Thanks for reading, everyone. I'll keep you updated on how things go from here. Am I the idiot for refusing to help my girlfriend paint her apartment for free? When she's getting paid, my girlfriend just rented this apartment in a city we do not currently live in, and her landlord is paying her and her roommate $1,000 to paint the inside of it, supplies included. Originally, we were not sure if her roommate was going to do it, so I immediately offered to help and split the money with my girlfriend, which she agreed to. Turned out her roommate did want to help, so I figured I was not needed and did not think anything more of it. Yesterday, my girlfriend and I headed to the city where we share a cheap apartment we call our studio. She dropped me off to do my thing. Then she went to her apartment to meet up with her roommate and her roommate's mom. This is where the issue begins. That evening, she texts me asking why I'm not helping her. At this time, I am busy making music at the studio, so I just tell her that. When she gets back to the studio a couple of hours later, she is telling me all about her day and everything, and mentions how I should help her tomorrow. I do not say anything then, but I am thinking, there is no way unless you pay me or something. I would, of course, help if there was no money on the table. But in this situation, I think that asking me for free help when she is getting paid for labor is unfair. I did not say anything that night, though. I just went to bed. The next morning, she asked if I will come help, and I pretty much just said no. This made her pretty mad, and she was saying that I really should help since I am her boyfriend. She also said her roommate's mom is helping, and she is not getting paid. I still did not think it is right, and I told her I would not ask for half of her $500, but I think I should be paid some for the labor if there is money allocated to that. I then realized I do not even have clothes to paint in. The argument went in circles just like that for a minute or two, and then she stormed out to go back to her apartment. So then I texted her because I do not think she understands my perspective of the situation. I said that she should have told me to bring some paint clothes if she wanted me to help. Also, I said that it is pretty entitled to expect help for free when you are getting paid so much for labor. She said that the money is for her rent. Well, that money could be for my rent too. I said, he's paying you for labor and you are asking me to do the labor, but you are keeping all the money. She said it's just called helping a friend. Again, I would absolutely help her if there was not money for labor involved. But since there is, I think it is pretty messed up that she would not even consider paying me for the labor she is asking me to do. It just feels really unfair, and it is not what I would do in her place. But still, I feel bad, because I do sort of think I should be there for her regardless. So am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the jerk. I think your logic is sound. You've said if no money was on the table, you'd help for free. There is money on the table though, so you're asking for some of that money. Also, it sounds like you and your girlfriend are on a similar financial footing and that your girlfriend never even asked you to help. She demanded it. She's being entitled to the extreme, and her communication style seems problematic. Comment 2. You're leaving out some key details about your relationship, like how she's just moved out of your place. Sounds a lot like neither of you are being considerate of each other. You're just looking out for yourselves, which signals a much bigger problem. Everyone sucks here. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been about a month since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. First off, thanks for all the support and advice you gave me last time. So after our argument about painting her apartment, my girlfriend and I didn't talk much for a couple of days. I felt bad about the whole situation, so I decided to surprise her by showing up at her apartment with some old clothes and offering to help paint. When I got there, I found out that her roommate and her mom had already finished most of the painting. My girlfriend seemed happy to see me, but I could tell she was still a bit upset. We started painting the last room together, and things were going pretty well. We were chatting and joking around like normal. But then I accidentally knocked over a can of paint, and it spilled all over the carpet. I felt terrible and immediately started trying to clean it up, but the damage was done. My girlfriend was furious and started yelling at me, saying that I should have been more careful and that now they might not get their security deposit back. I apologized profusely and offered to pay for the damage, but she wasn't having it. She said that this is exactly why she didn't want me to help in the first place, and that I always find a way to mess things up. That really hurt, and I started to get defensive. I reminded her that I had offered to help from the beginning and that she was the one who didn't want me there. We got into a huge fight, and I ended up storming out of the apartment. I went back to our studio and tried to distract myself with music, but I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I felt like I had let her down and that maybe she was right about me always messing things up. A few days later, I found out from a mutual friend that my girlfriend had been talking to her ex-boyfriend again. Apparently, he had reached out to her after seeing her post about the apartment on social media. I was devastated. I knew they had a history, but I thought we were in a good place. When I confronted her about it, she admitted that they had been talking but said that it was just as friends. She said that he had been going through a tough time and needed someone to talk to. I didn't buy it. I felt like she was emotionally cheating on me and I couldn't trust her anymore. We had another big fight, and this time, I was the one who ended things. I told her that I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect me enough to be honest with me. She tried to apologize and said that she never meant to hurt me, but I was too hurt to listen. Looking back, I realized that our relationship had been rocky for a while. We had been fighting a lot, and I think we both had some underlying issues that we hadn't addressed. I had always been insecure about her ex-boyfriend, and I think that played a big role in why I got so upset about the painting situation. I also realized that I had been neglecting my own needs and wants in the relationship. I had been so focused on trying to be there for her and make her happy that I had forgotten about myself. I needed to take some time to focus on my own goals and aspirations. It's been a tough month, but I'm slowly starting to heal. I've been throwing myself into my music and spending more time with friends. I know that breakups are never easy, but I'm trying to see this as an opportunity to grow and learn more about myself. Thanks again for all the support and advice. It really means a lot to have a community like this to turn to when things get tough. Am I the idiot for banning family visits to protect our injured dog and newborn baby? My husband and I just welcomed our first child 4 days ago on Sunday, May 19th. She arrived just short of 38 weeks, and I had no signs of impending labor just days before, so her arrival surprised us a bit, but we're both happy and healthy. My husband and I also have a 5-year-old dachshund, Oliver, who we are completely obsessed with. Oliver gets regular allergy shots and had an appointment on Monday, which I had planned to take him to, but obviously that changed when the baby arrived. I want to keep him on his medication schedule, and I knew things would be chaotic with a newborn at home. So I asked my parents, we live in a 2-family home with them, to bring him for his appointment. While in the waiting room of the vet's office, he was attacked by a much larger dog and sustained serious injuries. He was rushed into surgery immediately. The entire thing was so traumatic. Finding out he was injured while I was away in the hospital was one of the worst moments of my life. I made my husband go and be there at the vet's office while I waited anxiously in the hospital. Luckily, he pulled through and is recovering as well as possible, but he has a long road to recovery. I was discharged the next day, and he was able to come home yesterday. Having a baby in the house is a huge adjustment for us all, including Oliver, though he has been shocking us with how well he's doing, especially while in the midst of recovery. It has been really hard for my husband and me to make sure everyone's needs are met, but we're managing with some help from my parents. Things are going as well as can be expected after a stressful week. However, one thing that's causing a lot of stress is visitors. My hospital still had strict visiting rules after infection 19, so all the relatives who couldn't visit want to visit at home. However, Oliver gets extremely excited to see anyone who comes over, and we have been instructed to keep him quiet and calm right now so that he can heal. Additionally, we are exhausted from taking care of both. When our daughter is napping, we spend all our time with him as he recovers. We decided that right now is not the time to have visitors, but we've gotten some nasty replies from family, saying we're prioritizing a dog over our daughter's relationship with her family. She's a newborn. She doesn't know any different, and these aren't immediate family members, and that they can't believe we'd put a dog over them. They tell me I'll be a bad mom for prioritizing Oliver, and that breaks my heart because I love my baby so much. But I also love Oliver to death too. My in-laws live out of state and will meet the baby in July, so the people being pushed off aren't grandparents. They're my husband's siblings and aunts and uncles on both sides. If it weren't for Oliver's injuries, we probably would allow select visitors with certain precautions. But he is our first baby, and we want to make this time as stress-free for him. Am I the jerk for putting visitors on the back burner during this time? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot one. It's a newborn baby, and they aren't the ones the baby needs to bond with too. Families always seem to think newborns are communal property. They aren't 3. Your house, your baby, your dog, your rules 4. Of course, the dog is also a member of the family, and you are doing no more than prioritizing a family member's health 5. They will all have to mutter nasty shoot under their breath and wait. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I would reply to them, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm not sorry for not wanting to have people over when I just gave birth to a baby and have an injured pet to look after. Right now, your feelings are not my priority, and to be honest, your comments and behavior have led me to decide to put some distance between us. We can talk about you coming over to meet the baby, maybe by the end of the year. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks so much for your comments and support on my last post. It really means a lot to me and my husband during this challenging time. It's been a week since I last updated you all, and let me tell you, it's been one heck of a very eventful ride. As much as I wish I could say things have gotten better, the truth is, they've taken a turn for the worse. Remember how I mentioned that we were putting visitors on hold to prioritize Oliver's recovery and our newborn's needs? Well, that decision came back to bite us in the most unexpected way. My husband's sister, who was particularly upset about not being able to visit, decided to take matters into her own hands. She showed up at our doorstep unannounced, demanding to see the baby. When we tried to explain the situation with Oliver and our need for a calm environment, she completely lost it. She started screaming at us, accusing us of being selfish and not caring about family. The commotion was so loud that it woke up both the baby and Oliver, who started whimpering in pain. I tried my best to calm everyone down, but it was no use. My sister-in-law stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I was left shaking, holding my crying newborn while my husband tended to Oliver. It was a nightmare. But that wasn't the end of it. Later that day, we started receiving angry texts and calls from other family members, who had apparently heard a very twisted version of the story from my sister-in-law. They accused us of all sorts of things, from being bad parents to prioritizing a dog over family. The stress of it all took a toll on me, both physically and emotionally. I found myself crying constantly, feeling like I was failing as a mother and a dog owner. My husband did his best to support me, but he was struggling too. To make matters worse, Oliver's recovery started to go downhill. He developed an infection at the surgery site, which required another emergency vet visit. The vet told us that the stress of the recent events likely contributed to his weakened immune system. I couldn't help but blame myself. If only I had stood my ground more firmly. If only I had found a way to make everyone happy. But deep down, I knew that was impossible. As I sat by Oliver's side at the vet's office, I started to reflect on my own childhood. Growing up, my parents always prioritized our family dog over everything else. They would cancel plans last minute if the dog needed something, and they always made sure he was comfortable and happy. At the time, I resented it. I felt like the dog was more important than me. But now, as I looked at Oliver, I realized that my parents were just doing what they thought was best for our family. They understood that a dog is not just a pet, but a member of the family. With that realization, I made a decision. I would not let anyone, not even family, come between me and my responsibilities as a mother and a dog owner. I would prioritize the well-being of my newborn and Oliver, no matter what anyone else said. It hasn't been easy, and the fallout from that decision has been harsh. Some family members have stopped speaking to us altogether, and the tension is clear. But I know in my heart that I'm doing the right thing. As for Oliver, he's slowly but surely on the mend. The infection is under control, and he's starting to regain his strength. It's going to be a long road to recovery, but we'll be there for him every step of the way. And our baby girl? She's thriving despite all the chaos around her. She's the light in our lives, and we're so grateful for her. So that's where things stand now. It's been a tough week, filled with challenges and heartbreak. But we're taking it one day at a time, and we're holding on to the love and support of those who truly understand. Thank you all for listening and for being there for us. It means more than you know. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.